In this video, we will be looking at solving systems of linear equations by graphing, okay? Remember, a system of equation is when we have two lines, okay? So we have two lines here, we have two lines in this situation, and we have two lines here. So the solution to a system of equations is the coordinate of the intersection point. So we're looking for where the two lines touch. If we look at this first example, our two lines are touching at the intersection point 1, 2, 3, down 1, 3, negative 1, okay? If we look at our example here, our two lines are not touching at all. So that means that we have no solution. And if we look at our lines here, we can see there's actually one line here, and then there's a line on top of it, and that means there are infinite solutions. So there are an infinite amount of solutions. They touch at all the points here where the two lines are. So again, we have one solution where we have to locate the point. No solution. This is where we actually have parallel lines. And infinite solutions, they're on top of each other. So to solve a linear system of linear equations, when we're given two equations, we're going to type it into the Desmos calculator. So for this one here, we have 4x plus 5y equals 20. So we can just type it into here, 4x plus 5y equals 20. So I have my first equation, and then my second equation says y equals 2x plus 4. Y equals 2x plus 4. Okay, and so I look at my graph, and we can move that aside so we can see our graph nicely, and we're looking for that intersection point, so where the two lines touch right here at 0, 4. And we see that's also on our example here. So they touch at that point, 0, 4. This is your solution. Okay. Sometimes they can ask you what is the x coordinate or the y coordinate. So just make sure you look at your answer and then answer the question accordingly. Again, we have some special cases. When we have no solution, we have parallel lines. And when we have infinitely many solutions, on your Desmos graph, it's going to look like the same exact line. So this is how they'll appear on your Desmos graph. Okay. So a lot of times with systems of equations, we will encounter some word problems. And there are two main types of word problems that you'll come across on your SOL. You would need to create a system of two equations. And here's how to set up your systems of two equations for each of the two types of problems. So for type 1 here, we have our first type. The question is going to ask you to find how many of each item, okay? So for example, given the value, this could be cost or points of each item and a total. So you're given two things, a value and a total. Okay, so one of your equations is going to look like this. X plus y equals the total, because we have an X amount plus a Y amount, and we're looking at the total. Then in our second equation, we're going to look at the value of item 1 with an X and the value of item 2 with a Y, and then that's going to be our total value. Okay. Our second type is when we're asked to find the cost of each item, given how many of each item for two different situations. So in this case, both of the equations should look similar, just with different numbers. For type 1, your two equations will look different. Okay, so here you're going to have how many of item 1 an X, how many of item 2 with a Y, and the total value in the first situation. Then we're going to have how many of item 1 and how many of item 2, and then the total value in our second situation. So let's take a look at what these could look like. So we have our first example says the Sterling Beauty Salon offers manicures for $12 and pedicures for $20. Julia has so far spent $120 for her 8 visits to the salon for either a manicure or a pedicure. Which system of equations could be used to find how many manicures M and pedicures P Julia has had done at this salon? So again, your variables will usually be found in the question. So I always want to look at my end question here. which system of equations could be used to find how many manicures, so that's my M, and pedicures P. So that's what I'm looking for, how many manicures and how many pedicures. Okay, so I'm going to start setting it up over here, and then we'll see which one matches. So manicures, okay, I have my M plus my pedicures. How many manicures and pedicures did she have to have all together? So it looks like she had 8 so far. She had 8 total manicures and pedicures. So now we have a value. It costs $12 for a manicure. So I'm going to say 12M plus it costs $20 for a pedicure plus 20P. And notice that I measured this in dollars and this one in dollars. So that means my answer, $12 for a manicure and $12 for a pedicure, should be in money. And she spent $120. So when you're doing your value one, always check to make sure that the measurements match. So now let's see. Answer choice B, M plus P equals 8, 12M plus 20P equals 120. Let's take a look at one more example here. It says the Hamilton family and the Nguyen family are at a store that sells ice cream cones and popsicles. The Hamilton family got 5 ice cream cones and 2 popsicles for $14.50. The Nguyen family spent $8.50 for 3 ice cream cones and 1 popsicle. If C represents the number of ice cream cones and P represents the number of popsicles, which system of equations could be used to find the cost of each ice cream cone and each popsicle? So here I have 2 situations. I have the Hamilton family and the Nguyen family, and we have 2 of the same scenario. So I'm looking first at the Hamilton family. Okay, and then my second equation, I'm going to look at the Nguyen family. Okay, so the Hamilton family, it says they got 5 ice cream cones. So 5, we said C was ice cream cones. Plus, they got 2 popsicles, so 2P, and that family spent $14.50. For my second equation, I'm looking at the Nguyen family. They spent $8.50 total. That's going to be what I'm equal to. So the order of the problem, they may not write it in the same order, but you still want to match it up. Now, they had 3 ice cream cones plus 1 popsicle, and that was equal to $8.50. So here we're looking for one that says 5C plus 2P equals $14.50, and 3C plus 1P and P are the same thing, equals $8.50. So your answer choice is D. Now for these 2 problems, it didn't ask us to solve them, but if you had to, you could have typed these into Desmos. And remember, we can't put C and P into Desmos, so you'd want to put X and Y there. But you could type those equations into Desmos and find out what your solution would be. But these 2 equations just ask you to set it up. Okay. We've reached the end of our video, so please make sure you work on the practice problems that follow these examples.